Before I start the video, just a quick update for anyone who's watching in my previous videos, and in case I misunderstood before, the Kickstarter exclusive stuff wasn't actually exclusive. I actually went back and reviewed the page, and I was wrong on two different points. I just want to make myself correct here for the future videos because I'm not re-recording my videos. So anytime I mention this, I apologize. Those facts later in the video are wrong. But I thought the Malicious expansion was part of the Kickstarter stuff. It was not. It is the Unbroken expansion and the Gatekeeper expansion. They were the stuff that were available on Kickstarter along with the upgrade kit, which has all the 3D components and the additional map. So basically you get 10 killers and 10 survivors. And then a map and the 3D stuff with the Kickstarter stuff. The second correction was I thought that they were stretch goals that you were getting for free. They were not. This is a pre-order. What you were doing is you were ordering these two expansions before they were listed as separate expansions, as well as the upgradable stuff and the core game in one giant box. So there was never any actual exclusives or free stuff for the backers. They got it at a reduced price per the Kickstarter price, although if you find these on sale somewhere outside of their store, that's a different argument altogether. So yeah, it was the Unbroken expansion and the Gatekeeper expansion that were part of the original Kickstarter components of the all-in box that eventually got broke up into two expansions. The Malicious expansion was the third expansion that came out that had the board, so it had less killers and less survivors because they added a board in there. And then the Lightbringer is the fourth expansion that came out that had less killers and less survivors because it added some additional oath or offering cards instead. So yeah, I just want to apologize that as you listen to the rest of these videos, I might have mentioned these in the wrong order. I just assumed when they were on Kickstarter they were going to have, all the free stuff or their bonuses or unlocks or something like that. But yeah, again, they were just pre-order all in one box, and then later they released them in 3 separate boxes, so you could buy everything separately if you wanted to. All right, let's head into the video then. Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to the Dead by Daylight, the board game, by 99 level 99 Games and Behavior Studios. So this is based off of the mega popular survival video game where it's usually 4 players versus 1, where 1 player is the killer trying to get rid of and sacrifice the other 4 players, which they're trying to start generators and escape. So although given the kind of graphic nature of the video game, this game actually in itself does not have a lot of graphic stuff in there. So if that's something you're thinking like, I just mentioned those 2 things, killers and survivors, and you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't going to be a game for me, it's going to be all gory, and this, it's not actually, really. Outside of the generalized theming of what you're doing, there's not much other than that. So just a heads up on that. Again, other than like terminology and stuff like talking about blood or hooking people. Or obviously killing and stuff like that. But there's no gory images, really, or anything like that. Some of the figures, miniatures might be a little, or the pictures of the killers might be a little disturbing, depending on what your horror nature is or not. But that's your kind of preference thing. So this is a really interesting game. You have to have the core set to play, like, obviously, but then there is a bunch of expansions that you can buy as well to add more things. So as of this video, there are currently 4 big expansions out, which covers almost every single killer and survivor character from the video game. They are the original characters. It does not include any of the IP stuff. None of the board games will have that, so we're not getting like Resident Evil or Walking Dead or any of the horror icons like Chucky or Ghostface or anything, or Jason, any of that stuff. But we are getting all of the main created new characters and stuff. And again, I said as of this video because I think there has been release of 1 more brand new killer/survival DLC, or 2 since the time I ordered this game. So they'll possibly be in the next update. Or the next expansion, I should say, rather. But again, they have to wait for it. So this is mentioned as being a 3 to 5 player game. So this is one thing I'm going to kind of mention here that might take some people out of the game, is because there is no, out of the box at least, there is no AI controlled opponent. So lots of times in games have stuff where you have to have players versus another player that's like the boss or the bad guy. You should have some sort of AI mode that you can substitute in there. I'm not going to say fans haven't created one. I haven't personally looked it up to see if they have. I might try and do that for a different video or later on if it seems interesting enough. But yeah, for the part, someone has to play as one side, someone has to play as the other. And then you need at least 2 people to play. But you also have to always use all 4 characters. So it's also, again, a thing to keep in mind if you're thinking about picking this up. And hey, we got 3 people. The 2 players on the survivor side are going to then have to control 2 people. If you have 3 people, then one person will have to control 2 of the other, which get their own character. Just as a heads up, that's how the game is played, because you need all them people, because if you try and play with less, not saying you couldn't do it, but it's going to be very difficult on one side or the other. It's going to be too easy for the killer, for example. Of course, what I do also like about this game is it's considered to be a light game, and that's not something I would have expected from having played the video game. I know it's not a ton of in-depth stuff in the game. Obviously, there's strategies, there's different things each character, and they have different perks they can get, and the killers have perks, which are represented very well in this game. But yeah, considered a light game. When I actually read through how the rules play, I can definitely see how it's a light game. It's not, again, not to say the board game doesn't not have strategy. It's not kind of things where you could say, easy to play, hard to master idea. So as you keep playing, as you buy more expansions, you can mix and match stuff with it. You can definitely make things a little bit easier, a little bit harder. There are survivors and killers that have who are easier, harder to use based on their abilities they have. So it's really cool as well. But yeah, so I think it's very a light game for how the complexity of the game works. And we'll kind of see this when we jump into how it actually plays. But it's like the quick thing is, as a player, you are selecting certain cards from your hand to do certain actions, and then the killer does the same thing. And you only have limited actions. You kind of have to, based on what you can do and what you're guessing what your opponent's going to do. And this is as opposed to another asymmetrical horror game that's in a similar vein, which is Terror Escape, which there's literally a divide in the board. So the hero's side, or the good guy, the survivor side, can see what they're doing, but they can't see what the killer's doing, and vice versa. Here, everyone sees the same gameplay, so it does make a difference. I've not played Terror Escape, so I'm not going to be able to have a direct comparison, but I have read up enough about it to know what it is. So the last thing I want to talk about before I hop into the actual video is kind of about some of the expansions really quick. So I did mention there are 4 expansions. Let me back up my camera a bit. So we got the Lightbringer, which is the newest one, Gatekeeper, Unbroken, and Malicious. So if you have, usually I do lots of these videos, I always have the Kickstarter edition. I did not back this, I did not know about this when the Kickstarter, I might not even know about Dead by Daylight during the Kickstarter really enough about it. So I didn't get that. But what I did is I ended up buying everything. But what was really cool is the Unbroken expansion and the Militia expansion. All of the killers and survivors and all their cards and everything are the stuff that was all the stretch goals in the Kickstarter. So if you have the Kickstarter pack, you can basically skip these 2 expansions, which is really cool. But if you didn't have it, you can pick it up and you can still get all the characters and all that. So there's no character or killer that is exclusive. Now, I didn't ever check to see if the models are different, or if the pictures on the artwork are different. I haven't compared any of that. But like for actual playable content, it's the exact same with like 2 minor exceptions. If I scroll down a bit here, we have the upgrade kit. The upgrade kit gives 3D objects, and I'm going to unbox these all in a different video, but it's 3D objects that replace some of the tokens in the game, as well as it has a new map to play on. So that was the other bonus for the Kickstarter, which you can buy that if you like it. Now, obviously the 3D components are always optional. They're never necessary to play the game. You can play without them completely. The map is kind of fun to have. But again, is it skippable? Yes, you could play just on the core map. Malicious also comes with a map as well. So you actually, if you buy these two your core bets and this expansion, you'll actually have 2 different maps to play on, which are double-sided. So you have 4 different maps. So it's quite a bit of content already, and you can pick this up for another one. But yeah, if you pick up these 3 things all together, you have the exact same stuff that would have been in the Kickstarter. So yeah, that's really cool that they did that. Instead of gatekeeping it behind 100% exclusive. The other people, they got it for free. Everyone else still has to buy it. It cost a decent amount to buy it. But nice I didn't have to go hunt it down. And then the other thing I also want to mention about expansions really quick is I don't generally talk about what you should or shouldn't buy. So obviously you have to buy the core set because it has a bunch of tokens, items, and stuff you have to have. All the expansions are going to have either 3 or 4 new killers. I think it's 3 and 3 and then 4 and 4. And then they're all going to have, I believe, 4 or 5 new survivors. And I think it's 4, 4, and then 5 and 5. So the reason why Malicious and Lightbringer have less versus the middle 2 is because this has the extra board in there. So you're getting that as an addition thing to kind of replace one of the killers. And it also has some extra perk cards. So that's definitely the first expansion I might say to pick up, just because it has extra board, which will change up the gameplay, and it has extra perk cards, which will change up the gameplay outside of just selecting a different playable character. And then Lightbringers does kind of the same thing as well, as it has brand new offering cards in the game, which lets you kind of basically mess with the difficulty and make the game a little bit harder or easier for one side or the other. So this adds new extra things to add into the game. This kind of helps change up the difficulty. Otherwise, the general thing is I think Gatekeeper has either another easy killer and easy survivor playable, and this has more harder characters. Otherwise, I think these 2 are about equal for half and half for even hardness and easiness. But again, that's just based on they list difficulty of easy and hard. So one person's easy might not necessarily mean it's another person's easy. One person's hard might find one character harder than another hard character. But yeah, so pretty cool. That as of right now, we have these 4 expansions plus the upgrade kit and the base set. This is quite a bit of content because I think there's 6 killers in the core box, so 6, 10, 10, 15, 16, 17. I think there's 18 killers and like 18 survivors, I believe. 18 or 19, 20 survivors. So yeah, there's quite a bit of content to go around. Alright, that is what we have for this beginning part. Let's hop into what is in the actual core box. Alright, so what does the core box contain? It is going to have a bunch of big oversized boards for each of our killers, and we'll go over what's on each of these a little bit more in depth in just a minute. But we have our 6 different killers: Dr. Hag, Nurse, Hillbilly, and Wraith and Trapper. And they're all big giant boards, so enough room to put some cards on, hold your tokens. And on the back side of each one, they actually have an interaction for what your character can do when it interacts with certain tokens and what you can do for certain other things, which is really cool because basically it's a tips card. But yeah, if I'm not playing as this one, you can have this out to just help remind yourself. In the same sense, we have our survivors, which have a little bit smaller boards because they don't have as much different stuff going on. And then they have our different survivors. We have Fang, Ace, Nia, Jake, Claudette, Meg, and Dwight. And on the back side there is also how they can interact with different stuff as well. Different tokens on the game. We will have, of course, our rule book. We'll have this quick game overview guide, which we'll go over in just a sec. We have our double set of tokens. So I haven't even unwrapped these yet, just so they didn't fall out in the box. So we have a bunch of different prop tokens, which are all different colors, which are just show how you're going to interact with them. It's kind of like the yellow ones are objective tokens, are what you need to do to survive. The red ones have to do with kind of like the bad stuff. The blue ones are for like items or to help out your survivors. And then the green ones are kind of like a little bit in the middle. They're kind of good, bad type of things. And I have a bunch of blood points to keep track of health and things like that. First player token. And on the back side, if I flip all these over, they're going to have just the symbols so you can mix these up on the board. And then we have some extra little tokens there. We have some blood hook tokens. We have some traps and stuff. Some of these have to do with abilities for the killers that have various bear traps they can put down or different markings. And then we have generator marks used to repair the generators, which is what you need to escape. Very cool there. We have a big, huge, oversized board, which we will pull out and look at in just a moment. We have our big chunky dice with special symbols all over them. 1 through 5 markings on there. And then a bag number 6, as well as the red dice, which has 4 bad ones and then 2 good ones. So basically, it's 4 failures and 2 great successes. So it's like a riskier die you might use. We have some blood little blood token trays for our miniature. So if your survivor gets injured, you can put that on there. So it's kind of fun. Little ring tokens. So you can snap that onto your guy. Then you know he's injured as he's running around. So you can easily tell. And we only get 4 of them because there's only 1 per player. Because you basically have 2 hit points. It's essentially you get hurt and then you get hooked and you lose, or you're not hurt. And then we have all our miniatures, which we'll look at all of them as we go through each different character. Then we have a bunch of cards. So we have a set of these different cards for movement. On the backs, they're all going to be the same, regardless of which ones they are, but there's a set of each color for each character. So each 4 survivors and then 1 for the killers. So they all use the same stuff. So you have crouching, sneaking, sprinting, and vaulting. A very, very fun is I love the use of the colors in this game for everything as well than just symbols or just words. Like the symbols, obviously, so if I'm looking on the board here, I can see red is red, green is green. But I also see that matching the picture up. So that way, if you have trouble with colors, that helps as well. And then there's 1 weight card for the killer. They get their own special card. We have a bunch of item cards you can pick up throughout the game, which will have a similar picture on the back, but one has movement, one has a little crate icon, and it will slightly different colors. These are different items your survivors can pick up to help you out throughout the game. And then we have 2 more decks of cards, which are the perk decks. 1 for red, 1 for blue. So red are the killer's perks, blue are the survivor's perks. And these are just extra little abilities that your characters can use. We'll explain how these all work in a minute as well, and we'll go through all of these. And then the killers get one. So, like, as a quick thing for what those are, is on each player's sheet, they have a purple one, which is specifically only for that character. And then we have 2 green ones, which are ones that are in this deck that anyone can use. So if I just want to do a quick play, I can just grab this character sheet. I have my 3 cards ready to go. If you want to change up your game a bunch, you can actually go through and you can pick up these, now they're yellow, and you can put them on and change up their abilities. So you can mix and match their abilities from other survivors from this game, expansions as well. Plus, what's really cool about the core edition is there's actually some that aren't available on the survivor cards. There's some brand new exclusive ones, whereas the later expansions, everything outside of Malicious, the other 3, the only cards that come in the game are the ones that are on the survivors, which is still fun because in that way you can mix in stuff from the newest expansion to the core characters, but they didn't add any brand new ones in there. So that is what we have for what cards we have. So how do we play the game? The game is very simple to be played, I believe. I just want to find the part. Usually they have a part in here. that says the how to win part. So here's our basic setup. So I'm just going to show this off quick. So we have the board. You'll roll some dice to tell you where your survivors start. You're going to put tokens on the board based on the symbols on the board. Each player will have one hook token and some blood tokens to spend for their things. They'll have their 4 cards. And then you have everything else just kind of sitting around. And the killer will have the same exact thing, except they might have tokens for their specific character. They'll have the weight card, and they have a couple extra tokens, but they don't get a little blood token. Otherwise, yeah, everything else just kind of sits out and is ready to go. I was trying to find... Here's the game end. The game ends when the killer's sacrifice progress is full or the survivors open the exit gate. The team that completes your objective first wins immediately. The game ends. So that's what we're trying to do. Is basically the killer needs to hook the survivors enough times that they can't win. I guess if they hook all 4 of them, they can't actually probably do anything anyhow, so they're probably going to win that way. Or the survivors have to activate the generator enough times and fix all the enough generators to reveal the exit and then open the exit, and then they escape. So quick overview on the guide. So survivor's turn, you're going to use cards to plan your movement around the as you move and explore and discover props. So for example, you're going to play a green card to move along a green spot, and you're going to find a prop. As soon as you move to an area, you flip that over, and it's the generator. That's how you're going to discover, because at the beginning of the game, you're not going to know where the generators are, what they are. It's kind of like the video game. You have to run around and search for things. For 2, then you're going to get to interact with the various props that are already turned face up. And try to evade the killer and avoid being sacrificed. So for here, he moved to the red one, flipped that over, then for his interactive action, he had an item, so he drew an item card. Repair 4 generators to power up the exit. Open up the power to the gate. If you can open the gate, you win the game. It's a very simplified overview. The killers are going to play very similar-ish. You have 2 moves per round to move the hunt of the survivors. Try to predict where you're going, and move to those spaces. So now here you have to kind of decide is where might they move during their turn, so where do I want to go? Do I want to go to the blue route, or do I want to go to the green route? Interact with healthy survivors to wound them. They get the little bloody token. Interact with the wounded survivors to sacrifice them. You cannot sacrifice a survivor on the same turn you wound them. So this is also where the little bit of the strategy comes in, is you can't hook someone, you can't attack them and hit them, then immediately turn around, pick them up, and take them to the hook. So if you've played the video game, that's very similar how it is. If you do hit someone, they'll have enough time to kind of limp away and try and get back away before you can just pick them up right away. And it says, gain sacrifice project each round for every hooked survivor with 8 progress tokens you win. So, again, you're going to throw these guys up on these hooks. If they're hooked up there, every turn they stay up there, they win. So, again, if you can get 2 or 3 stuck up there at a time, you'll win much quicker. Or you might get lucky, and you might be able to just keep hooking one guy. Like turn later, hook another guy, they get rested, hook another guy, get rested, you can still potentially win. And then for both teams, they have special perks. Our abilities are used by spending blood points. Get more blood points by interacting with hex tokens, which are the little red ones. So that's the very oversimplified rules of the game. So let's kind of look at the map here, and then we can kind of look at some of the more intricate instructions before we head into what the killers and survivors do. Alright, so let's take a look at the board here. So this is way up in the top corner. You can kind of see this. We have Auto Haven Wreckers. So this is one of the areas based on the video game. So it's really neat is they have like the pictures from the game. And this is always a thing. It's like, how are you going to make this game feel like you're moving around these different parts of the map and stuff without having like a big giant grid-based board? And I think this is a very interesting way to do it. So as you can see on the map here, well, first of all, before you get the actual map, up at the very top we have the red, which are your blood hooks. So there are a total of 8 of those. And on the other side is we have progression tokens with arrow going that way to show 4 generators and 1 exit. Those are your progression tokens. So as you hook guys, you'll put a token on there, or as you fix generators, you'll put them on there to show that you've completed the progress of those. Then on each different space here on the board, we're going to have a couple of things. Some of them are going to have a little symbol in them. Some of them, like over here, won't. That's just the starting point, and there are some abilities that are going to reference that. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to roll a die for each player. So player 1 is going to go start on spot number 4, which is way over here. I can't really see down the board. Sorry, and then like spot. Oh, now player 2 is going to start at spot 4. Player 3. So this is really bad roll to start. And then player 4 is going to start with the killer icon, which is the one we're showing right here. And then the killer actually rolls, and they're going to start at 2. So this should be a very interesting game if I actually rolled that. So 3 of the players are here. 1 is here, and the killer is going to start way up there. So now here's the thing, is you could have everyone spread out. You could have everyone together. Now you could obviously house rule your own thing, like we want, once 2 people are in an area, you can't have more than 2 people there. That might be in the rule book too. I have to check to see if it says that. But I don't know if it does. Yeah, it just says multiple player can start the same space, and the survivors may start in the same space as the killer. So that's not that big of a deal overall. Then the other little icons they have on a spot are the tokens they start with. So if I'm starting at the pumps here, or I'm just at the pumps, I'm going to have a yellow, a red, a blue, and a green. But then we have some, they're going to have more or less than the others. I think being a starter set, every single one of these has at least 1 yellow, it looks like, and 1 red. But not all of them have the blues. So if we kind of zoom up a little bit, this one actually has 2 greens, which are kind of like which are fairly helpful areas. We have like 1 over here that has 2 blues. So that has 2 items in it. And then we have one, we have a double blue. We have one at the top that has 2 greens, but it has no blues, so there's no items in that location. And that's one of the differences you're going to get from map to map, is what has more or less things. You might have some that have more items, some that have less. It's just kind of cool. So when you enter your character enters an area, you get to flip one of these icons over. So if this player, let me just zoom in here, on their turn, they move from the snack bar over to the pumps, they get to flip one of these. They can decide if they want to reveal if it's a generator or not. Maybe they want to see if it's an item box. Oh, it's a locker instead. Maybe they want to see what the green one is. And then the second thing they can do is after they move, they get to interact with something that's face up. Now, if they came in here and the item box is already up, and they flip this over. Now they have the option of interacting with the yellow one or the blue one. They cannot interact with the green or red yet. So moving back and forth around the board, and this is actually, I think, makes kind of a fun, interesting game, because it's not just, oh, I have to get here and do this. You need to keep moving around the board constantly. You're not going to be able to just sit and hide in one spot. And do stuff, because you might be able to kind of be in one spot for a minute, but the idea is you want to keep moving around constantly. And then we have these different arrows and icons on here. So this is also a very important part of the game. So if at the beginning of my turn, this character, who I'm not for sure who this is off the top of my head, so sorry about that for someone that's like, that's my favorite character. Beginning of your turn, you have your 4 movement cards: Sneak, Crouch, Bolt, and Sprint. You are going to pick one of the routes to go through. So if I discard my Crouch card, I can go up to this way. If I discard my Sneak card, I can use this one. I can discard my Sprint to go left or right. I can also use right up here. There is a reason for this symbol, which I'll get to in a bit. So red, I can actually potentially go either direction. And then yellow, I can only go this way. So if I'm at the barn, I can no longer go over. And this is where your turns and your stuff are going to make a difference. Because if I went to the barn, I no longer have a yellow to spend, which is fine. I don't have a yellow there, but I only have a blue and a red. There is no green here. So if I had, just as an example, if I was over here at the cottage and I used green to go up here, and I used yellow to go here, to take double movements around, I can only use. I've already used my blue and green cards anyhow, so it's not, or my green and yellow cards, so I only have red and blue left to do. So which direction you move is going to make a big difference. And so here's where it makes a thing, because if I use the red to go up here, I have 2 more blue exits. If I use blue to go straight up, I also have a red exit. So I can traverse to 2 other spaces with my 2 other cards. But if I took my blue and went down first, I am now stuck because I don't have a green. So I wanted to use my red movement card. So the directions you're going to go are going to make differences on what you can do or what you can't do during your turn. What if I am here and I can't play a card, or if I play a card that doesn't have a thing in there, is then you actually stay in that spot, which isn't a bad idea either. I could obviously choose, even on my first turn, I could choose to play a red. Face down is how I'm going to basically say, I'm going to play a red here. Oh, I don't have a red, so I don't move, which is fine. I might want to stay here. Maybe I don't want to traverse across the board this turn because the killer's too close or I want to anticipate him. But you also lose your ability to interact with anything that turn. So that's why I said the whole thing is you have to keep moving, because if you stay in one spot, you don't get to do anything else on your turn. You're basically just waiting out, not doing anything. So it's a very interesting game. It wants you to keep kind of moving around the board. So very cool there. So the little paths here, they have the little squiggly lines in them. They are breakable paths. So breakable walls are placed on the paths with distressed borders. So they're going to be the ones that we had tokens for. So there's going to be a little jaggedy token here. That's basically saying you have a blocked way, so you can't initially enter that way, and you have to spend, I believe the killer has to break through there first. It's actually certain ways that you might not be able to get around the board until maybe you lure or trick, as a survivor, you have to maybe lure or trick the killer to go through that direction versus wanting to go all the way around. Alright, so that's kind of the base idea of what's on there. So let's take a little bit better look at the rules here for what we get to do. So first of all, drop my camera back down here a little bit so it's not that far. Now we kind of see what the board looks like. So we have 4 things you can do on there. First of all, you have planning. All players will plan their movements. So this is what you're doing, though, is it's not the survivors take their turn, then the killer takes their turn. The survivors and the killers are all going to place down their movement cards on where they want to move during the turn. So as a survivor, I have to decide, do I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4 movements and get up to the top of the board in that order, or do I want to go this way or that way? I gotta figure out where I would like to go on my turn. Maybe I only want to move two cards. Maybe I want to move all 4 cards. I kind of gotta decide what I can do and what I can't do based on where I am and what I can do. Because again, like if I was up here and I use my red to go here, I can know, even if this wasn't broken, I can no longer go up. Now I have one of my other directions to go. If I moved my second card was then to move blue over here, I only have an option now to use yellow to go back to the first room. Maybe there's a generator in here, right? And I want to activate this generator. So I want to go 1, 2, 3, come back to this generator so I can work on that generator. Great. That's what my objective is. But now at the same time, the killer is going to be somewhere else on the board. Let's say the killer is way up here. Their card, they're going to place down their 2 movement cards to figure out where you're going. So they're going to decide, she's right there. Now, you might not want to be, well, I'll just move down here and try and capture her, right? Because obviously she's going to move somewhere, most likely, so she can do something. So now you have to decide where they're going to move. But really, your options from this spot is either to go over to that one, or come down to this one, or you can go over to this one. So you can decide, are they going to run this way? Are they going to go that way? And you're kind of going to maybe base some of your guesses on, obviously there's 4 players on the board, so you have more options to decide than just one person. But it might also be what's available. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to come down here to this generator regardless because I don't want to have to deal with it. But here's the thing is you have to look at is, can you even get to the generator in 2 moves? If you go up, down, there, nope, that's 3. I don't have 3. If you come down this way, you can't get over because you don't have a second blue. So you might not even be able to get over to that generator. But what you could do is you might anticipate, if they want to stay at this generator, they're going to have to, if they're going to come back to this generator, maybe I can follow them down to one of these other spots. And maybe she plans on going here, and then he flips his first card, he goes here. But now her second card's here, so he's like, oh, I thought she was going to, I didn't know which way she's going to go. So he comes down here, and then she goes back up. She successfully dodged the killer, but now on his next turn, he's blocking this spot. And he might interact with one of these tokens and get rid of something. Or that. There's also ways for killers to get extra actions. So he may have had something else planned. But yeah, it's kind of a cat and mouse game. And that's also to assume, again, there's 3 other players on the board. Where are they all going to be at too? So yeah, everyone plans all their stuff. Survivors act in turn order. Each survivor will take 1 turn. Then the killer acts, taking turns. Usually the killer gets 2 turns per action and then clean up. So the planning. Each survivor selecting places down 1 movement card face down. The killer selecting place 2 movement cards face down in a row. While survivors are allowed to communicate with one another, secret communication is not allowed. Anything that's said on the table must be said aloud so that the killer and all the survivors can hear. With the beginning of the survivor holds the first player marker going clockwise. So now, I just did mention she wants to do this. Now, to go back and just clarify though, that is what she wants to do ultimately. She can only make 1 movement per turn. So yeah, that's going to definitely make her think. So obviously if she goes here and then he goes here, now in her next turn she has to decide. Again, do I run this way away from, or do I want to get back to this generator? And then again, you could kind of play that cat and mouse game where she gets back up here just to interact with it, but then now she has to keep moving to kind of dodge that. So yeah, it's very, but again, there's other players around the board too. You have to keep that in mind. Reveal your movement card, then move on the matching path connecting a space. Flip over a face-down prop when entering a space if there are any left. Yellow vault paths are one way and can only be moved along when you follow that past arrows. Any other effective rule would make you move. You still flip over a face-down prop when you move in a room. You'll have perks and stuff that'll let you move extra things as well. If you reveal any card you can now move, then you lose the opportunity to interact with that card. So he reveals a blue sneak, but there is no blue path. He does not move and he loses his chance to do anything. So you might stay in the same spot, but you don't get to do anything else that turn. And then here again it's showing she moves, she gets to flip that token over, and then she can also interact with it immediately on that turn. Or you can interact with any other thing on there. How do we do interact actions? Choose and reveal a prop or another survivor in your space to interact with. Survivors can escape by interacting with generators, which are found in the objective yellow category. See the survivor interactions on 12. Survivor references all the different ways a survivor can interact with props and players. Survivor may choose to not interact if they wish. So if there's an item box, they may decide not to pick up an item. So if there's a generator, we'll roll to figure out how to see success with that. Meg chooses to interact with the generator. She reveals a 2 guy. She succeeds. She has 1 progress token. Dwight chooses to interact with the revealed crow, which is this green one here, which allows him to move and interact again. He plays a red movement card and moves on the crouching path. He reveals the face down survival prop. So these green ones are really nice because they'll let you get additional movements out of it that you wouldn't normally be able to plan for. Survivor's bonus turn. Certain effects ask you to take a survivor bonus turn. While doing so, the survivor must discard a movement card of a different one than they are set in the plan. They move on the card's path. If they move, they may interact. This may interrupt a turn order after the survivor moves and interacts, resume according to the original turn. Because there could be something that says if another survivor enters your zone or if the killer enters your zone, you get a free movement, stuff like that. So example on the bottom we just saw Dwight use a crow as an extra action. Unlike killers, who may only make use of one bonus turn per round. Survivors can take multiple turns as long as they have cards to play. So this might be where, again, you have to plan, because if you can take multiple movements, you don't want to accidentally find yourself where you can't because you played the wrong cards. So how do the killers get to act? They get to move, reveal their movement card, move on the path, flip over a face-down prop when entering a space if there are any left. So every time anyone enters a space, you're going to keep flipping these spots over. There's at least 4 per each area. Some have 5. Again, there might be some boards that have more or less. So you're going to be flipping these over pretty frequently to find out what's what in each area. Yeah, so basically, if you reveal any card other than wait, you cannot move. So they do have the option of playing the wait card, which keeps them from moving. So the nurse reveals a green sprite, moves along the path of Schenker. She reveals the boldness prop by flipping it over, which is the red one. So they have interact. Choosing a revealed prop or a survivor in your space, interact. Killer advances their objective by interacting with a survivor in their space is called attacking. They also use their killer power once per round instead of interacting. And they choose not to interact if they wish. The nurse decides to interact with Meg and inflicts a wound, but placing a wound on her base. Now if the nurse has resolved her first movement, she would reveal her second card and move and interact again. So they could potentially hit 2 people during one turn, or stop them from maybe running somewhere. A bonus turn. Only at the end of your second turn, you may spend 4 blood points, to set a third movement card, then proceed to take a third. No matter what, the killer may only take 1 bonus per turn. Then we go to the cleanup phase. So here's just kind of an idea of them doing a second bonus their turn. So play a red card, moved over to where that player was. And then step 2, that player had an ability card, so they played this to move. So that's if they moved right away, so they used a bonus turn. Well, they interacted and they got rid of all the progress on the generator. And then the second action is, rather than trying to chase them towards the green, because they maybe used a green card or didn't want to use one, they instead moved down to blue and they wound this character instead. Which is a pretty good turn. So during cleanup, we have finished round by completing the following order. Sacrifice progression. For each survivor who is currently sacrificed, then a survivor sacrifice progress by putting a token next to the empty space of the track. If it reaches 8, the killer has won the game. Remove entity tokens. Some effects can block props or pass with entity tokens. These removed at the end of each round. Pass the first player marker, so you know who's going first next. That's also, the thing is, when players go, it's not pick who you decide wants to go first. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, then 2, 3, 4, 1, so on and so forth. And then pick up movement cards. All will pick up all their movement cards and get ready. So yeah, pretty simple rules overall. During your turn, each player will play either 1 or 2 movement cards. Decide what you want to do. You're going to go somewhere, flip over a token if able, interact with something that's there, either the new one you flipped over or a new one. You can also spend your blood points to use your certain perks. So, like, on her turn, she can use her 0, it doesn't cost anything, or another 0, or she can use her 1 to make an extra special thing. And then the killers themselves are going to have the same idea. There's usually cost a little bit more sometimes, but they also have a special power they can do instead of interacting, which usually involves either placing something on the board that's going to mess up these survivors, or it's going to be like maybe a movement ability, or something like that. They have some. I know there's like one guy, he can literally move to any of these marks. He can jump between those marks, so you can basically get around the board super quick that way. Which you always use after your first interaction, move somewhere else. Your second one, you can move somewhere else. And again, it's kind of neat because it also gives, since the killers go second, yes, they've already placed their movement cards. But they will have some options here, right? So here's a good example of that. If the killer on their first turn moved from the top down to the main garage, right? And their initial plan was, I'm going to come over to this generator and stomp on that, right? And that's going to be their first move. So they have a red planned. But then let's say, hey, this person moved down here, right? That was their turn. Now they have the option to, they could jump down here and take out this person instead. Maybe it's better for them to damage them. Or if they're already damaged and they have the little bloody on them, they can instead be like, I'm going to come down here and sacrifice them. That's a much better use of my turn. So it's kind of a neat idea for the killer getting that second movement, because the first one, they're really just 100% guessing where someone's going to be, but they might be able to move in such an advantageous way that they could possibly set themselves up with multiple reds, there's multiple blue spots, that they could go into different orders. The only thing that's going to ever happen is yellow, obviously, only goes one way, so if they play yellow, they don't have an option. And then green usually has multiple exits. So that'd be also the other thing is if they're at this spot and they had a green card ready, they could go left or right at the top. Same thing down here. They could go left or right. Gives them multiple options on which way to go. So running usually gives you more areas to go to. Blue and red are a little bit closer. But yeah, some different options there. Pretty interesting. Alright, so what do all our tokens mean? Let's jump into those. So we have blue ones, which I don't remember exactly what the things are. But blue chests, how survivors can interact with these. So they can rummage, remove the chest, draw the top card of the item deck. Only if you ever have more than one item, discard until you only have one. So when you move to a spot, if it has a token, you're going to flip it over. If it's a chest, you can interact with it. But you don't have to, because let's say you already have an item. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to use this item. I don't want to waste it. Otherwise, you might do it, get rid of it to try and find a different item that might suit you better. But then also remember, you're basically not leaving an item for somebody else. We have the locker, the hide. Place the survivor in the locker. Well, there's a survivor on the locker. Other survivors cannot interact with it. Killer and the other survivors treat the locker as if they were not on the board for the purpose of interaction, perks, or killer powers, as long as they're in there. While on the locker, survivors cannot use perks or items. When you first move for any reason, take your survivor off the locker. So, if she moved here and she interacted, she's now hidden in the locker, so no one can directly interact with her. They can't play any abilities that target them. If the killer moves in here, they don't get a free hit on her, because she's hiding in the locker. Now, there is ways for them to help to get them out of there to do stuff. But yeah, that's just how that's going to go. So you have green ones, which are the crow. The killer gains a blood point, you take a survivor bonus turn. So the killer's gonna gain more blood points. It's a double-edged sword. You get an extra movement, but the killer gains more points to use against you. The pallet drop. Place a pallet on the path connected to your space. You cannot place a pallet on the path of the breakable wall, another pallet, or any other component. So we have a crow on this one, but if we had the pallet, you could drop it on there, and it's going to mess up the killer does. And if you're familiar with the game, that's obviously you're jumping through like a bunch of stuff. You throw a thing down behind them. And then pallets on paths, survivors move freely over pallets. So you don't have to worry about them. For the generator, perform a skill check. On success, add a progression. On great success, add 2 progressions instead. On a failure, add no progressions. If the generator have 3 or more progress, it stays at 3. With 3 progress, the generator is complete and moved up to the generator track at the top. So once it has 3, it can't be destroyed anymore. So here it is. So Dwight decides to interact with the generator. He rolls a 3 for a skill check, adds 1 progress token. And it says Jake helps out interact with the generator that Dwight interact with. He rolls a 5, adds 2 progression, is now complete, and moves the generator to the track. So working together, you can get it completed in 1 round. That way it doesn't have a chance to get sabotaged. And yeah, again, talking about if you played the game. So the game, if I recall, it's you have to hit the space button at certain intervals. There's a little like ring going around. You have to try and hit it at a certain time. If you hit it exactly, the generator progression bar goes up. If you hit it in the wrong spot, you kind of make extra noise, and it's error noises, so the killer knows where you're at. Obviously, the killer's going to know where you're at, seeing you there. So it's a little bit different than that, but it still has that potential chance. And although if you're really good, you could probably hit the space bar every time without any issue. So this kind of adds more of that luck factor versus, I'm just really good at hitting space bar at a certain time. Then we have the exit gates. Once 4 generators are complete, the exit gates are powered up. Survivors can only interact with exit gates once they're powered up. If the exit gates are powered up, perform a skill check, add 1 progress. With 3, the gate opens, and the survivors win the game. Which also means, you have to find them. So hopefully by the time you interact with enough generators, you have found the gates at some point from either yourself or the killer moving on. Obviously, the killer probably doesn't, he goes to an area, he's probably not going to flip the yellow one, because why does he want to help anyone interact with that? But eventually he might not have a choice. For the red ones, we have the hook, which is sabotage. Placing any needed token, which is the little squiggly mark here, on the hook. The hook with an entity token cannot be interacted with. A token is removed at the end of the round. This just helps stop the killer from getting someone to your token. It's just the way the killers can actually impede, the way the survivors can impede the killer. If a survivor was sacrificed on the sabotage hook, you can gain a blood point, then the sacrificed survivor is rescued, and they are moved off the hook. You may move along any path after this. The rescued survivor may move along any path. So, for example, if she rescues this person, she's going to put an entity token on there so it can't be used again. Rescue this person, they're going to get removed, and she gains a token. Although it's not the best way to try and gain tokens, just because it also means you're risking someone's life. But now they can each move different ways. So one moves up, one moves left. Maybe they just maybe she's going to go up and she's going to be like, hey, I'm going to move up here and, try and interact with this generator. Or I'm going to go to this item. The other one's like, the killer is somewhere that direction. I'm already wounded, so I'm going to get away from the killer. Then we have Hex Totems, Cleanse. From a skill check on a success, remove the Hex Totem from the game. So this is, again, where the survivors can get rid of something that's beneficial for the killer by getting rid of their Hex Totems. And also you can heal another survivor. From a skill check on a success, the other survivors become healthy, removing the wound around their base. Breakable walls. Survivors cannot interact with breakable walls under normal circumstances. Survivor attempting to move on a path of breakable wall remains in its place and loses the opportunity to interact. So very simple. Then the killers, how they can interact with theirs. So they can't interact with items at all. If they have an item on the board, they can't do anything with it. But the locker, if it's occupied, may only interact with an occupied locker. An empty one can't be interacted with. Survivor on the locker performs a skill check. On a failure, they're picked up even if they aren't wounded. On a success, the locker is removed. So if someone's in the locker, they can try and roll to see if they can basically they're opening up. Oh, there's a guy in there. Since they're trapped in that locker, they can now capture them as if they were essentially wounded. So there's a way for non-wounded survivors to be put up on a hook potentially, and that destroys the locker. So it's interesting. For Scout, remove the Crow Gang thing, so this way they can get rid of that bonus thing for the killer, or for the survivor, so they don't get their extra movement. Generator damage from wall progression counters. The Hex Totem, Event Rate, gain 2 points. This is why you really want to get rid of those. And then attack. Survivor becomes wounded, putting a ring around them. So we have pallets and breakable walls. When a killer would move on a path of the pallet, they move the pallet instead and remain in their space, so they do not get to interact this turn. So it stops them, but they get to get rid of it. So you might not know if they're going to place it, so it might disrupt your entire turn. Or you might have already seen one and just sacrifice that movement for your first movement or second movement to get rid of one of those. When a killer moves on a path of the breakable wall, remove the wall and complete your movement as normal. Now it's accessible for all players. Also use your killer power. Each killer has unique power. Once per turn, they may use this power instead. Trapper decides uses bear trap power, places a bear trap on the path connecting this room. Feature on a survivor and moves that room may become wounded. The Wraith uses Wailing Bell power to travel across the board, moving from one room to another room further away. Or the Doctor uses Carter Spark to affect all survivors in its space. Meg does not have Madness, so she does not choose to lose or gain 1 blood point or gain Madness. Dwight already has a Madness from a previous turn, so he has no points to spend, and no points spent, so he becomes wounded. So it's like she's using this thing, she's hitting this person, either they can either lose a point or become maddened. Him, because he's already maddened, he just gets wounded instead. It's just kind of an interesting idea of their ability. It's kind of a little bit way they play. And the other big thing that killers do, pick up a wounded survivor. If a survivor is wounded, the killer picks them up, then the killer attempts to sacrifice them. The killer cannot pick up a survivor that was wounded this round. When the killer picks up a survivor, check if there's a hook in their space. If there is an unoccupied hook in their space, the survivor becomes sacrificed immediately. Place the survivor on the hook to show that they are sacrificed. So yeah, so if we flip this over, I don't have a hook on it, but let's pretend this was a hook. So if they moved down here and they wounded them, now I can't pick up one of these wound tokens. So he wounds them. So now normally what they would have to do is they have to go somewhere else. But if there's a hook there, they could immediately hook them up on top of that. And then that's done. They don't even have to do much else. Then when I use movement cards for this, survivor does not flip face down props during this movement. I'm sorry. They're sacrifice. If there is not an unoccupied hook in their space, the killer must carry the survivor to an unoccupied card to complete this. So if instead it wasn't here, but let's say he moved over here, he got here wounded or found her wounded, however it was, and the hook is up here. Now he has to try and get to that spot. The killer chooses a number up to 4 and forces the carried survivor to roll that many skill check dice. If any of these guys show a great success is a 5. The survivor escapes and is put down their space. If none of them do, the killer may move up to 1 space per die roll in order to reach a hook and sacrifice the survivor. If they still do not reach a hook, the survivor escapes in the space that cannot stop. While carrying, cannot move over pallets, break through walls, use killer powers, or interact. If the killer ends their movement in a space with an unoccupied hook, place the survivor on the hook to show their sacrifice. Once sacrificed survivor has any sacrifice progression tokens on the board, they place the sacrifice on the progression track. So yeah, this is a very neat idea for the game. So in the video game, when you are captured, you get picked up, put on their shoulder, or however they carry you. And then you can keep constantly spamming different buttons. I don't remember exactly which ones they were. It might just be the space button to try and struggle free. It is very difficult to do. But if you manage to do it, they drop you and you get let go. And this is kind of the same idea. And again, over time, if they take too long to get there, it's going to be easier and easier for you to get away. So in this example, they only need to move 1 space. So it's all they would need to do. So they could tell you, roll 1 die. I rolled a 4. Did not get it. They didn't pick you up, take you to this hook, and sacrifice you. Now, they could tell you, you know what? I don't care. It's 1 space. I want you to roll all 4 die. And then here's the thing, is even though they roll 4 die, none of them are great success. So he can technically move up to 4 spaces. He only needs to move 1 up there so he can do it. But he also got one of the bad icons. I forgot what they're called. So yeah, this is actually good for the killer. They actually gain an extra point for that. Blood points. So that's kind of their thing, is they could actually have the survivor roll more dice than the number of spaces. Yes, it increases their chance of rolling that success, but it also increases your chance of potentially getting more blood points out of it. Then the other problem, though, would be if you're here and the only hook you could find for whatever reason was more than 4 spaces away. So I guess like if you were in this back corner here, so if I back up, 4 spaces away would be 1, 2, 3. Nope, you need to 1, 2, 3, 4. I think almost all of them you could probably get to 4 spaces away. There would be very few spots, maybe on certain boards, where you can't move more than 4 spaces, but I think it's not going to happen very often. But again, there's also perks and stuff that are going to let you change the results. The survivor might have a perk that lets them change dice rolls. I can change any of my 3s or 4s to successful 5s. So rolling more dice might just mean they have more of an opportunity to use that. The killer might have perks that let you mitigate that stuff as well. So there are different things there. Sacrifice survivors cannot place a movement card during their turn, cannot use perks or items. The killer and other survivors treat the sacrifice survivor as if they're not on the board for purpose of interaction, perks, powers, as long as they remain sacrificed. And then they're arrested. So if they get put up there, they just don't get a turn until someone comes and rescues them. So Dwight is picked up by the trapper. There's an unoccupied hook in a space, so he's sacrificed immediately. is boom, done. So yeah, if you can try and get them to the exact same spots, that's super helpful. Here, Claudia is picked up by the Wraith. There's no occupied hook, so the Wraith forces Claudia to roll 2 dice. One of those dice shows a 5, and one shows a 0. The Wraith gains 1 point for the 0, so making him roll more dice can be helpful for that. And then Claudia breaks free from the roll for a 5. It says, Meg is picked up by the Hillbilly. There's a hook in the space, but Dwight is already sacrificed there. So since Dwight is here, she can't sacrifice a second time. Or it would be if they had the entity token on there that you damage it. They wouldn't be able to do that either. So it can't be used. Force is going to roll 3 dice. Results are 0, 2, and 1. Hillbilly gains 1 for the 0 and then moves 2 spaces to a hook and sacrifices them. Which in this scenario, that means 2 of your 4 people are sacrificed. So the other 2 really either need to just quickly finish the generators, or they need to get down there and help their team. Alright, other concepts, skill checks. Only survivors roll dice. When a survivor must perform a skill check, they roll one of the black dice. A 1, 2, 3, or 4 is a success. This usually causes the action to work as intended. The result showing a 5 is a great success, usually causes the action to work as intended. For some actions, it provides additional benefits. There is no benefit for a great success. It's just treated as a regular success instead. If it shows a 0, the action does nothing, and the killer gains a blood point. Rerolls sometimes have to be rerolled dice. Rerolled dice cannot be rolled a second time. There is a danger die. It's only rolled when instructed to. It has 4 failures and 2 great successes. A normal failure gain a blood point. Timing. When one player has multiple perks to activate at the same moment, they choose the activation of which order to do them. When 2 or more players have perks to activate, survivors involved in turn order electing to activate or passing activation to any number of their relevant perks. After that, the killer may resolve their perks if they still wish to. Entity token may be used to block certain paths, props in the trial. Usually a killer perk will put this token into play. The entity always removed from play during the cleanup step. There's only one entity, so if it needs to be placed again, the old token is removed. Perks allow killers and survivors to change the rules of the game, experiment with different perks. So this is, again, you can just play with them right off the bat, how they're listed on their boards, or you can actually give characters different abilities and stuff and mix and match. And that's why the expansions are really cool, because you get more and more abilities to try out with other characters and mix and match. And then connected spaces. Any space that has a path in your current space, vice versa. This means rooms are connected by a one-way pass are still considered connected to each other. So if it's like you can heal someone in a connected zone, you can still heal them if they're on the other side of a vault area. So some quick tips here. Have an exit strategy. Many spaces have limited exits, so be careful when you move. Some spaces are best avoided before the killer breaks some walls. Go for items early. They're very powerful, and sooner you have them, more opportunities you'll get to use them. Always found in chests, which are survival for blue. Pallets and crows strategically. Pallets and crows can be found in the altruism green category. These are important late game to move quickly around the map. Buy you extra time. Set up pallets as early as possible along key paths. Make sure to rest at the right time. Sometimes it's best to leave another survivor on the hook for a turn or 2. Resting can be dangerous as long as the exit gates are all open, all survivors win. If you don't see a golden opportunity to win the game, don't waste it. So this also, though, means that you don't have to have everyone off the hooks. You don't have to get everyone to the gates. As soon as that last gate is open, you roll your 3rd success on it, you win the game. So it might be worth leaving someone and just checking that die roll. Make healing a priority. When a survivor is healthy, they can't usually be picked up during that round. Healing another survivor, especially in their risky position, can always be a good way to block the killer's objective. So yeah, even if you have to jump in, heal somebody, and then you take a point of damage for it, because then they can move to your spot next, and you can't get away, at least they can't then move to that spot and take someone to the hook, right? They're only moving to that spot with 2 players, and they're still damaging only one of them. So it might be worth that little bit of a sacrifice. Killer tips. Killer bonus secure. Use killer bonus turns to secure sacrifices. Try not to spend your 4 on killer bonus unless you're certain you can guarantee a sacrifice with that turn. So yeah, basically, if you know there's someone that's going to be damaged and you can sacrifice them, then do it. Otherwise, you're just spending them points to move around the board quicker, which isn't a bad thing. It might position you a little bit better, but then you can't use it for your other perks and stuff like that. Predict survivors' movements. Survivors always move before you, thus you never need to move in the space where a survivor currently stands. Instead, predict their intentions and move towards the space you think they might want to move. Hex totems provide a powerful option. If you're not sure what to do next, try to use a hex totem to gain some blood points, especially effectively banking it for later turns. Avoid camping hooks. You cannot prevent survivors from freeing one another on a hook, so using the weight near a hook is rarely the right move. Instead, look for ways to punish the rescue by predicting where the rescuing survivor might run or intercepting the would-be rescuers. So basically what this is saying is, if she's on a hook already here and I'm in this space, I can't stop this guy. He enters the space. I don't do anything. He can rescue her. They can both run back to this space. I can't do anything as a killer to stop them from coming into my space. They don't take damage. They damage when I enter their space, but not when they enter mine. And the idea would be it's kind of like, oh, he's looking over here. So you're like sneaking over here, capturing them, and then pulling them away. That's kind of the idea of it. That's why you can be in the same space as a killer. Like, I could even potentially move here, and then he's like, oh, I didn't see you there, and he's going to walk over here. Because you could be hiding around an object, so you have the ability to be in the same space as a killer without them immediately hurting you. As long as they don't move into your space. So yeah, the survivor... the killer never wants to use them. So on this turn, like, the killer's first move doesn't necessarily... Now, would it make sense for him to move here? Maybe, because maybe he's going to move here to heal this person, and then he could come down and injure them. But probably going to happen is you're probably going to both... like, this person's definitely going to probably want to move away, so they don't get hooked. But this guy doesn't really have a lot of options, just because of the fact that the killer can... move two spaces right behind them. They can only move one space. So their idea they're going to probably here is either move to a space where they can either drop a pallet down and block their space, find a crow to get an extra movement space, or maybe find a locker and then move into that locker during that activation. So they might move down here, and then move into this locker and let this person move over here to get out of the way. And now if this killer moves here, he can interact and try and deal with the locker, but again, he has to spend a potential chance versus getting a free hit. And hunt multiple survivor links. If you don't pick the survivor at the same round, as you wound them, it's important to keep as many survivors wounded as possible. So what this is kind of then saying is, again, if we were in a situation like this, is... don't want to be like, oh, which way is this person going to move? Oh, they moved here, so all right, I'll move here, and then I'll move... Like, don't keep trying to, like, hunt this one person down. Like, if you do, try and get this guy wounded, and then now they move, then get wounded the third one. And if you have all four of them wounded on the board, you have a better chance of then running into one of them again, and then be able to hook them, versus just hunting down that one person. If you play the video game, it's kind of the same idea, right? You see one person even limping around. Like, yeah, you might catch them, but then you have the other three people working on generators off to the side who aren't like, he's not any threat to me. So there's definitely that. There's a big page of FAQs. I'm not going to go over any of that. We do have a couple of extra game modes. We have... We're looking at 3 or 4 player game. There's always 4 survivors in the trial, even if 3 or 4 players. In a 4-player, 1 survivor must control. 1 player must control 2 survivors. In a 3-player game, both survivors each must control 2 survivors each. So you could play it, looks like, with a 2 versus 1, but it's going to be really hard. When controlling 2 survivors, the player gets only 1 copy of each movement card. They must be careful in moving to ensure their 2 survivors will not need the same card. So yeah, again, adds a little bit more difficulty to the game. You could play 2 separate characters if you wanted to as well. Final straws of each player's turn in order as usual. The first player passes amongst them. So each of the 2 survivors will eventually be the first player. Adept. It's a good game for all skillers. Play this game, you just learn. Survivors and the killer have their own perks printed on the table. So just pop the game up and play it. You can do Blood Web. Start the game, each survivor and the killer shuffle their respective perk decks. Draw 5 cards from each deck. if any of the players draws a perk they already have perked on the board, they must discard it and redraw until they have 8 unique perks, 3 on the board, 5 in hand. Then choose up to 3 to keep of the drawn perks, covering any of their starting perks with these alternate options. And again, it's kind of neat because you can also cover up your signature perk that only that person has. So it's kind of an interesting idea there. And to be, in the end, each player has 3 total perks, which are some combination of the perks printed on the board, the cards they drew. You may choose to have all perk cards and no perk cards, or vice versa. Or Devout, fully customizable game. Survivor and killers may select up to 3 printed cards or reveal them. So it's basically the difference between Bloodweb and Devout is either drawing 5 and then selecting between them, so you only have certain options, or literally picking up every single one. And again, if you have 2 perks per each player, plus times 20 characters, so you have like 40 different perk cards, that's a lot to go through to sit there and customize versus just saying I drew 5 cards and now I have to pick 3 of them if I want any of them. So it's less options, but it is definitely a thing you can do. So that's what we have for the game. And the kind of how to play part. We'll go over the in the next video, we're going to go over all the different characters and stuff because this went pretty long. One thing I do want to show on here, though, is there are each board will have different number of spaces. Some have 10, some have 11. This one has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's number of red hooks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, not that one. I wanted this one. So the number of hooks we have are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We only have 5 hooks. So that means there's only going to be hooks in half of the areas or less. If there's 11, there will only be 5 and 6 empty ones. And then there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there might... Is that going to happen right? 1, 2, 3... 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 here, but I think on the other side, I think there's 11 spaces. So there might be some that don't always have red spots. So again, it's not like there's going to be a hook in every single area. And the same thing, there's going to be a lot of generators. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 generators. We have, I'm guessing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 blue ones. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we have 12 green ones, because there are some that have double blue, double green. But not everyone might be used every turn. But yeah, there are 2 different exits you can find, which can be helpful. But yeah, I wonder if some of the other boards that we'll look at in the expansions might have some spots that maybe they have less, maybe they don't have a yellow in every spot. Maybe they don't have a red in every spot, which should definitely be very interesting. So very cool. Alright, that is what we have for this. Come back in the next video and see what's in each individual card and character board. Bye.